Hello, good morning, everyone. After finishing this chapter of recruitment, now we are going to begin with the chapter of selection. See, once again, look at the module content, the basics of job analysis, data collection techniques, job description, specification, HR planning, concept and process, recruitment and selection concepts and methods. So, recruitment methods also we have discussed. Now, today we are going to start with the topic of selection. So I'm sure you understand, right, that after recruitment, I hope you remember the difference between recruitment and selection. As we will move ahead in this chapter, I will take you through the points of difference between recruitment and selection. But I hope you remember at least the meaning that when we are talking about recruitment, we are inviting applications from the prospective candidates. So recruitment is all about motivating people to apply for the job, good people. So that is recruitment. And from those available applications, the applications that we have, when we select the candidates for the job, then that is called selection. So that is recruitment and selection. Now let us understand the meaning. See, selection is a process of choosing candidates who have the required knowledge and skills to do a particular job. This process is usually carried out from a large group of potential job applicants. So, this process, how do we carry it out? From the large pool of potential job applicants. As I just told you, that during recruitment, you will be receiving so many applications, and from that, when you try and select candidates, then it becomes the selection. Point number 2, the main purpose of selection is to find out the best candidate available from a large group of people to do the required job successfully. So the idea is to identify the best person, right? Best person for the best job, or right person for the right job at the right time. So the purpose of selection is to find out the best candidate from a large group of people to do the required job successfully. Sometimes, due to the negligence and lack of skills and experience of HR personnel, talented candidates are denied the opportunity to work in the organization. So what happens is, lack of skills and experience of the HR personnel, because ultimately they will be selecting not for the technical positions, but otherwise, they will be selecting the candidates. And what happens is, if the HR person, or let's say the interviewer, or anybody who's part of the selection committee, if they only lack the skills and experience which is needed to select the candidate, then the good candidates, sometimes miss the opportunities. So unfortunately, it is the loss on the part of the organization. Thus, organizations need to have capable HR personnel who can ensure the right people with the right potential. So it is very much essential that HR should be capable, because you are the one hiring other talented people within the organization. That's why in every organization, HR is quite strong, because all the other employees, however, how do they feel, how do they work, whether they are following the discipline, whether they are whether they are knowledgeable, whether they are skilled, everything depends on the HR, how they reach out to them and how they identify the candidates. So this is the basic of selection. Now when we are talking about the difference, I told you recruitment and selection, the difference. So look at the first point of recruitment. The process of procurement begins with the recruitment of candidates from different sources. Right? So this is called the process of procurement, because you're procuring, you are hiring. So it begins with the recruitment of candidates from different sources. We have already discussed what are the different sources of recruitment. On the other end, the process of procurement ends with the selection of the necessary number of suitable candidates for the job. So here the process of procurement begins, and selection the process of procurement ends, because when you select, the process ends. That is one thing. Second, since the aim of recruitment is to gather as many applicants as possible for the job in an organization, it is a positive task. It is a positive task, right? Because you're gathering, you're inviting, so you just try and gather as many applicants as possible. On the other hand, selection attempts to eliminate applicants in different stages to end up with a smaller number of requisite candidates and is thus a negative task. What happens in recruitment? You are inviting more and more applications, so it is a positive task. And in selection, you are eliminating applicants in different stages, so that's why it is a negative task. Point number 3, recruitment is comparatively easy as it does not require expertise on the part of the recruiters to build an applicant pool, whereas selection is difficult because it requires specialized knowledge and skills on the part of the selectors to choose the best candidates by predicting their likely performance. Right? So recruitment is easy because all you have to do is advertise and take the preliminary round, means you try to screen them, but you don't need any expert knowledge for that. Whereas in selection, you need specialized knowledge depending upon for what position you are hiring, right? So that's why sometimes there is a whole panel for the purpose of selection. The selection committee consists of a panel of members because selection is an important task, right? So it need different type of knowledge, and that's why you need people who belong to different specialized areas so that they can select best candidates. Point number 4, recruitment is basically a searching function as it searches for prospective candidates for the jobs offered, whereas selection is basically a screening function as it screens the candidate for their suitability for the jobs offered. So recruitment is a searching function and selection is a screening function because you screen the candidate, you shortlist whoever is important and useful to you, you just select them. And otherwise recruitment is a searching function, you search for more and more candidates. Okay, I'll just give you a minute. If you want to go through these points once again, please go through these points. एक और बार पढ़ लीजिए. Alright, moving ahead. Now next comes the process of selection. So how does it go? So the first we'll read the steps and then we will discuss each of them. See, conducting preliminary interview, that is step number 1. Second one is filling an application blank. Third one is conducting employment test. Fourth one is conducting employment interviews. Fifth one is performing reference checks, conducting physical examination, offering the appointment letter, and making this final selection. Now each and every step we will discuss in detail, but try and see what happens, right? First, what you do is, like, once you receive so many applications, then what you do is you first take the preliminary interviews, that is the first round of interview, just to screen the candidate. Because if you remember, I showed you the ratio of receiving the application and the final selection that is made, right? It was around 50:1. So that means 50 applications when you're receiving, you are only able to hire one candidate. So that's why just because you're receiving so many applications, like I told you about Google also yesterday, they receive millions of applications in a year. So how do you do, like what kind of selection methods you apply? That's why it's very important to screen the candidate. So first one, step number one is conducting preliminary interviews. That is a very basic round of interview. So even when you will be applying for the job, you will be also going through this kind of preliminary interview in which basic questions are asked. Let's say, what about your qualifications? What courses have you studied or you are studying? Or let's say that what was your percentage? What were your grades? Right, what is your specialized areas, where did you pursue your internships, what did you learn from your internships, what experience you have, uh, like like that basic questions which is already there in your resume, like that, right? So that is your preliminary interview. After that, they will be asking you to fill an application blank. So application blank is like nothing, it's just a form like structure to gather more and more information about you. That is an application blank. After that, you will be going through some employment tests. So not all the organizations take the test, but depending upon the job and the position, you will be going through the employment test. Sometimes test is also one way to screen the candidate. So there are a number of tests. We mostly call them psychological tests to check your IQ level and your emotional stability and a lot of other things. So in the third slide, next slide, I will show you what are the different types of tests. Now if you clear the test, then fourth step is conducting employment interviews. Now come the interviews. See, as I told you, that test is also one way of screening the candidate. If there are so many candidates, you take the test, and on the basis of the grades, it becomes much easier to just screen, shortlist the candidates. Whoever is above average grade, or whoever is achieving some grades, good grades, then they goes for the next interview, which is employment interview, job interview. This is technical in nature because it is related to the job. Now let's say if you're applying for the HR manager's position, so all the questions related to HR will be asked. They will ask you anything related to compensation. They would like to know whether you are aware about the employment laws which are there in the country. They will be wanting to know that if some situation arises, some unusual situation arises, then how will you handle that situation. They might put forward some case based questions, some situational questions to understand how will you handle it. So this is more on the technical front. Let's say if you are an IT person, or if you are a marketing person, let's say, so then sometimes in the interviews what happens is they will give you one product. It can be anything. Let's say there's a bottle of water, or there's a pen or a book, and they will say that you sell this product to me. So they just want to know what are your selling skills and how will you plan and sell that particular product. So those kind of questions you can witness. They would want to know what are the marketing strategies, how digital marketing work, what are the different innovative strategies, what did you do in the past. Once again, all situational case based questions will be shared with you. So that is about conducting employment interviews.